this is a whole thing we haven't talked about of like, it's expensive to get a degree. It's money. And you can find places that are cheaper, but like, it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Doing this means that you're trying to recoup your cost with what you do ideally. But having the degree is still a huge safety net that no one can ever take away from you. And it's a good long play of having the degree and paying off those loans over time. Hello and welcome to the Open Hardware Manufacturing Podcast, the podcast about making open source hardware. My name is Stephen Haas.
I'm Lucy Chapar.
And today we are talking about education. And what does it mean to learn things in pursuit of doing some kind of engineering thing, whether it's for yourself, whether it's for a job that you do, and what we went through and kind of how that shaped what we ended up doing and what worked well for us and that whole kind of arc.
As well as their values around it all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, about what education kind of, what's the point, why, how best to do it, how to learn the most, like what worked well for us. And is it worth it? Is it worth it going through the process of getting a 4-year degree and doing the whole, the whole rigmarole of that and all that kind of stuff? But yeah, this is a good one. I learned a fair amount about you and your history in this one too, which is kind of fun.
Yeah. I'm going to run out of surprises at this rate.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so.
All right, well then, let's get into it.
Let's get into it. All right, so this episode's topic comes from someone who wrote in, Nate. Thank you so much for your detailed, wonderful message. Your email had so many good topics. We're going to hit a whole bunch more from you later. Thank you so much. Nate asked us about school and degrees and how important is it to get a 4-year degree going into engineering? How important is it to get it for certain types of degrees, for certain types of engineering? What does education look like for getting after what you want to get after, whether it's a normal job, doing your own thing, etc. So Nate, thank you so much for the topic.
Yeah, this is a really fun one to think critically about.
So getting into talking about schooling, we should probably give a little context about what we have and what school we went through, begrudgingly or excitedly.
That makes sense.
Yeah, just for context of like, it's important to know what lens we're looking at this through and like how we have experienced this, because we're going to be biased in everything we say based on what we actually did. So yeah, let's just get that out of the way and say kind of what our bit was. Do you want to go first, Luce?
Yeah, sure. So before college, I had a lot of experience with engineering and technology. I think I was pretty fortunate with the school district I grew up in.
Mm-hmm.
In middle school, we had wood shop and tech ed where we'd make like pine wood derby cars and learn basic shop tools.
That's
and
sick.
Safety. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
And your pops is like super like techie forward stuff too, right?
Yeah, he taught me how to solder when I was like 9 or 8.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Yeah, I had a really cool upbringing like that.
Yeah.
It could have gone better or more smooth. Like I was handed an Arduino kit without the guidance of how to use it.
Right.
So it didn't get touched much, which was a shame, but I was exposed to a lot of concepts from an early age.
Mm-hmm.
By the time high school came around, I was very single track mind on like building things.
Mm-hmm.
There was tech ed, automotive education, and woodshop. And I took the tech ed classes and the woodshop classes so much so that I was taking them on repeat.
Really? Just to have another semester to like, futz around with it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Like per week, I probably had 5+ hours of woodshop and tech ed over 4 years of high school. Yeah. And my mom would bring me to school because it was far faster than taking the bus, but it meant I had to get there like an hour and a half earlier than first bell. Yeah.
I didn't know any of this. That's so cool.
So like I'd use that time to get homework wrapped up, and I'd usually spend like an hour in the tech ed shop, like working on machines or like doing projects.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was like well over 1,200 hours of like tech ed experience in high school alone.
Wow. That's cool.
I go home and have a little workshop.
Yeah. With a Bridgeport in your garage and like, ugh. Yeah.
Yeah.
You had a lot of that cool stuff.
I also dabbled with FIRST Robotics a little bit. My high school used to have a team, but it got disbanded because of some funny controversy for another time.
Yeah.
I did some FIRST Robotics at a different school quite far away, and I could only do so much with it being like an hour commute and not having a driver's license.
Yep.
But it was a lot of fun, and I learned a lot from my time there.
And that was all before college.
Yeah.
That was just up through high school.
Yeah, for a while I felt like I peaked in high school because of all this experience.
And you did, all your Nerf involvement too. This is less about education, but like, I don't know, there's still a community you were a part of building stuff.
Yeah. Through the Nerf guns, I became exposed to like what a college degree was and then in the engineering field. And it pointed me towards starting at UConn, University of Connecticut, as a mechanical engineering student.
Yep.
And I did about 2 semesters of that mixed in with industrial engineering classes before realizing it didn't quite give me the education in creativity or design that I really necessarily valued.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, from there, second year onward, I did effectively an individualized major consisting of design and digital media, manufacturing, engineering, and like operations management, even some studio sculpture and entrepreneurship courses.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, kind of a big widespread. You kind of did the whole gambit at UConn.
Yeah, effectively, I was like, I want to leave school in 4 years with a degree while studying the things I care about.
Okay, so what are your fancy pieces of paper say? Like, what's the official at the end of the day?
It's wordy. Digital media design with a concentration in 3D animation and rendering, and then manufacturing, engineering, and management minor, and then I think I got a cert in principles of operation and information management, OPIM.
That's a long
And
thing.
I thought that was so much more interesting than just like a MECE degree that didn't teach you anything too specific.
Right. Yeah. And especially at UConn, because Lucy and I met at UConn, for those who don't know, that's where a lot of University of Connecticut is like designed to just funnel STEM kids into working for Pratt & Whitney, which is like a jet engine company. Like that's kind of like the pipeline they're expecting. So the MECE degree is like mechanical vibrations and a lot of thermodynamics. I had a couple engineering classes in high school. So I actually learned CAD in high school, and I did a lot of messing around with like little projects on my own time and like building little things. But it was really like a couple engineering classes that I had in high school where I did like a little bit of coding for like embedded stuff. Actually, it was part of the VEX system, which is kind of like Lego Mindstorms or something like that. And then a fair amount of CAD stuff that I did for engineering too. I also taught myself a lot of software stuff just on my own time, but that wasn't part of school. And then I went to UConn for mechanical engineering and I got a BS in that. And I'm like one class away from a CS minor. I took like 5 CS classes and I was like one shy, but like it was whatever. Like that one class was like a silly.
I think the projects we were doing together in school are too much of a distraction.
Yeah.
To snag that.
Well, and that's a lot of what we're going to talk about here is like the balance between those things. And like also after my junior year, I had an offer for a job full time and it was contingent upon not going back to school senior year. And I turned that down. So I decided to go back and finish my last year of school and like get the whole degree and everything. But all my classes at UConn were like very suited towards you're going to design jet engines. Like that was that's what I have been trained to do is design jet engines. That's what my degree is in. And like I have no interest in doing that.
Yeah, my joke was that UConn was a funnel into being the nut and bolt guy at Lockheed Martin.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna focus on this fastener and this wing spar for the next 5 years for the F-35 program, and then you're gonna go off and do the next nut and bolt wing spar.
Next nut and bolt, yeah.
The F-36.
Exactly. And your career will be a series of like 15 bolts or whatever.
Or hyper optimizing some foil on the next Boeing plane.
Yeah, and this is hyperbole, like, but that's what it felt like. You know, like that was kind of what it was teeing people up to do, and that's what almost all of my engineering cohort went off to do is like work at EB Electric Boat, which is in Norwich, Connecticut. So, you know, a lot of Connecticut companies, but that was very much the energy behind it. I didn't take a CAD class as part of my mechanical engineering degree. All of my formal CAD training was when I was a junior in high school.
Yeah. And
which is crazy.
And this is funny too, because through extracurriculars in college, I designed and taught CAD classes through a club I ran.
Yeah.
And all these MECE students were desperately attending these classes, just trying to figure out what CAD is before they graduated. Because they wanted SolidWorks on their resume.
Yep.
School wasn't there to give it to them.
Yeah. Yeah. It was strange. Like the school is very much a pipeline for not necessarily learning, but getting a job. So I don't know. I have a lot of conflicting feelings about it. I don't regret it. I'm glad that I went for the degree that I did. I learned a tremendous amount in it. I'm glad I got the degree I did, but especially my CS classes, those were a lot of fun as well. But anyway, how much did you value school as a general concept before going to college? Like, like graduating high school, about to go to college, how do you view school?
Going in, it very much felt like something I had to begrudgingly do to get where I wanted. I didn't necessarily understand the utility of it. And I felt like my skill sets in high school made an engineering degree somewhat optional. I felt like I learned a lot about making things, about how things are made IRL. Like I'd practically memorized the how it's made show. And like I was more fluent in SolidWorks than like most master's students. I basically felt coerced into doing a 4-year degree.
Yeah.
or guilted into
because you felt like you had to do it, like you should do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My family really emphasized education and saw it as incredibly important. On my paternal side of the family, I was like one of the first to get a college degree. So there was a lot of pressure on me to do it.
Yep.
And it seemed fun. I had a lot of reasons for being nervous living somewhere else. I had no idea what eating in a dining hall would be like, or
yeah, normal school.
Like I was an only child, so it was terrifying.
Yeah.
I was very apprehensive or anxious about the concept. And when I got there, I quickly changed my mind on a lot of that, but it was still like
yeah. I was pretty excited about getting into it. I think like my parents were also super intense about school. Like my dad's line was like, school is your job. You need to do like, that is what you are here to do right now is school. That is the point of what you're doing right now. That is your job. That is your responsibility. Both my parents super intense about school. My dad's a lawyer. Both my parents have like masters in English. They do not mess around with school. And my brother is 2 years younger than me, and he's always been smarter than me and had to work less hard than me. So I had to put in way more effort into school than he ever did. So school's always kind of like this begrudging thing that's like, this is just my labor. Like I just need to put a lot. And my high school, I had like 6 hours of homework a night in high school. Like I had no free time after school. It was crazy. My school was great, but it was very intense. So I've been steeped in aggressive school my whole life. But when I got to high school, I was kind of like, I don't actually really care about this so much. I need to get the piece of paper. The whole point of going to school is to get the piece of paper. In my mind, this is how I viewed it. I don't really care about learning all of these things. I care about the piece of paper to unlock all the other doors that it can for me. So I did well enough to get by, and I spent all the rest of my time on my own projects. And that's what I did through like maybe sophomore year of high school all the way through end of college. I blew off a lot of classes. I ignored a lot of stuff like that, but I did well enough. You know, I got BB pluses, you know, A minuses in class, but like I did not spend as much time as I could. I was working on my own shit. So that's kind of how I viewed it too.
I definitely didn't have the just get the piece of paper mindset. Like the phrase C's get degrees was not said to me soon enough.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I to this day have never had a employer check my transcript.
Yeah.
Every time I fretted over a grade was arbitrary, and it never actually
yeah, once you're into college, it's all about, again, in my mind, if you're not planning on going to grad school, the grades don't really matter. Once you have the degree, they're like, cool, you have the degree, and summa cum laude looks good, but like isn't necessary, right?
Yeah.
So it's more about like, if you're going to go to another thing of school afterwards, they're going to want to see your grades. But if you're not, like I knew sophomore year, there's no way in hell I was going to grad school, like ever. It's like, I just need to get the degree. I don't care. Yeah, it's interesting. I think we definitely had different takes on it. I really wanted to do well too, but I don't know. I wanted to do well enough. I had other things I spent time on. That's really where my focus was in college, especially. So the question that incited this episode is like specifically about school, but this episode is about education and like learning about engineering, like whether it's from a personal project or school or, you know, another job or something like that. So we're kind of breaking this into like, when should you bother with the degree? When should you bother with personal projects? Kind of like what's the criteria for when it's something you want to focus on, in our opinion. So first we'll start with, when is it worth it to go and get this degree? Lucy and I, we both did. One in engineering, one in not, but you had a lot of engineering focus. Like we both do have a degree. So when do we recommend actually going through the trouble of getting one?
Honestly, if you want a formal engineering job, you're probably going to need a big boy 4-year degree.
Yeah.
Like if you want to design jet engines or rockets, there's a decent chance a MECE degree is a prerequisite from an ABET accredited university. Yeah,
getting ABET accredited engineering school is like surprisingly a thing that I have seen people like actually care about quite a bit. I'm not familiar with the organization that does the accreditation or whatever, but like an engineering degree from an ABET accredited university is a thing. But yeah, if you want a formal engineering job, if you want to work at Pratt & Whitney, if you want to, you know, do big heavy industry stuff, you just need it. Like they're not gonna think about it otherwise, you know?
Yeah. In the US, there's something in between a bachelor's degree and a master's degree, and it's called the professional engineer or PE cert.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's basically an exam that covers like 4 years of curriculum in your field of study.
It's only like 2 years for the program. How long is the actual program?
It's an exam.
Oh, it's just a test.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I don't believe you can take it without having a 4-year degree. And for many types of engineering curriculum, like for any disciplines of engineering, you need to have PE.
Oh, I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's also FE. I don't know what the FE stands for.
Okay. I misheard you. I thought you were saying this was a degree. This is like
No.
the accreditation of like you can actually call yourself an engineer.
Yeah. Professional engineer.
Right. Yes. Okay. I remember this now. Yeah. I so opted to not do that.
Yeah.
I graduated with a job and I'm like, I don't care about doing this at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you're a civil engineer and you want to design a highway overpass, like
You need it.
you need it.
Yep. Correct me if I'm wrong, but there was a guy who like did an analysis of the traffic lights in his town and was like, hey, they're actually pretty inefficient. You know, I'm an engineer and I, went through this process of like figuring out the better way to do it. And like he was sued or there was some cease and desist like takedown notice for his blog because he wasn't a PE. Like he didn't have the accreditation and he was claiming he was an engineer and said something about the civil engineering of the municipality. And he's like not allowed to do that or something, which threw me off a lot. Like he didn't say he was a PE. He said he's an engineer. If you engineer things, you're an engineer. If you teach people, I get it. Like I understand. But do you remember that story?
I'm completely aware of that. It's a very interesting
okay.
conflict of the rights, the free speech in the USA.
Yeah.
And misrepresenting yourself in your professional accreditation.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's weird. It's messy. But so that's the thing. Like depending on your job, you actually might need to go through and get this. So if you're like super dead set of like, I want to work in oil or something like that. And like that job requires having your PE cert or whatever it is. I don't know much about it. And a 4-year degree. Of course you got to.
Or heck, if you're in Canada and you want to call yourself an engineer, that's legally gated behind a 4-year engineering degree.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's wild. Yeah. So that's one. You want a formal engineering job. Another reason you want to do it is to work at most startups. Like a lot of them, especially late stage startups, like, I think Forum Labs, they want to see a degree. Like if early stage stuff, whatever, you're just a bunch of jokers starting something up, right? Like it doesn't necessarily matter. If you have the skills, that's more important. But the bigger a company gets, I feel like the more important it gets to them of like having a degree.
And I actually kind of disagree here.
Yeah.
Like, I know HR at Google has been told to like not screen based off of a degree or not.
Mm-hmm.
There are plenty of brilliant people at Forum Labs that were self-taught.
Yeah.
It puts lubrication on the door to open it.
I think so. I think it's like, and what I think about a lot is like the optics team at Forum Labs. Like, I don't care how many personal projects you did. If you don't have a master's or a PhD in optics, they're not going to hire you for the optics team. So it also depends on the team, right? Like, what are you actually going to go do? If you have, 3 million followers on Instagram, but you don't have a degree in social media, are they going to hire you to run their social media? Yeah, they don't care if you have that degree or not. So it also depends. Like, is the way, and maybe I'm wrong about the optics thing, but like, I'm not sure what it would be. Previous job. Okay. Maybe, you've designed the optics for some other thing and that looks good as a pedigree instead of the degree. Yeah. I could see that.
There's a lot of types of experience that someone will not have DIY or self-taught.
Right. That's the way to say
like nanotech.
Yeah. Like, designing MEMS devices is like, okay, you can't be like, well, I thought of this cool MEMS device and write it down in my notebook and never made it and never went to school for it. It's like, sorry,
But I do think there still might be a pathway of like, someone was a R&D technician assisting people with 4-year degrees and they worked their way up.
Yep.
And like, there are non-degree pathways to get into most things. They're just much harder.
So a lot of startups do care about it, but it also depends. Like it's like you said, it like greases the skids a little bit, that makes it easier to make it happen.
Yeah. Or in like the highest end of like research engineering jobs, PhD is required. You want to go work at OpenAI?
Yeah.
You're going to need that PhD.
You need to be the best of the best of the best of the best of the best. Yeah.
So sometimes it's just, it's the key to the door. It's not the lube.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And like another reason for having a degree is starting your own thing.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, having a 4-year degree teaches you a lot about life. It teaches you a lot about project management, work-life balance. And it's a great backup in case your own endeavors fail.
Yep. Absolutely. Like, I think even though like everything that I learned in my degree, I don't really use very much at all of what I actually learned in my classes. Like there's still a ton I learned about like juggling 5 or 6 demanding like calculus focused engineering classes at a time and making sure all those things were turned in on time and like handling all the workload of all that stuff. That is something in and of itself, and like there is value in that. there might be other ways to get that. You know, you don't have to necessarily go and pay for a degree like that to do that, but you do still get a lot from it. And it's also the freaking opportunities that you can get at a university. This is really why I found a lot of value in school for starting up Opula. Was like, the stuff that you get at a university is so much more than like the classes you go to. So like, I did a whole bunch of grants and programs. I did the IDEA grant, which was pretty much $4,000 that UConn would give you if you had like an independent research project. And I applied for this grant and I got it to build like a robotic arm. And I did that for like a year and a half. And then I applied to a startup incubator and I won money from that in a pitch competition. I did this incubator over a summer, and like all these programs were so helpful. Like it was about $15,000 in grant money that I got just for my own fun personal projects that I applied for and pitched and like submitted applications for at UConn. And then a ton of connections to different people at UConn that I still am in contact with and like still helps out a ton today. I think Keith and Rich, you know, two of the Innovation Quest mentors, huge resource from them.
Yeah, I see things quite similarly there. College was completely what I made of it.
Yeah.
My friends and I started a club called the 3D Printing Club, and it became almost more important than any class I took.
Yeah.
I ran that for 4 years in school, and we got well over $12,000 in supplies and equipment per semester. So by the time I graduated, there was close to $100,000 worth of 3D printing and manufacturing equipment we got to play with and learn about.
Yeah.
And like having access to that's not something I could have done otherwise. Like, I think about the fact that almost the entire amount of money I paid for school was put into equipment purchases for this club.
Sure. Yeah.
It felt like I was really getting my money's worth.
Yeah.
Directing UConn funds in a way where I'm like, okay.
I'm getting to play with these toys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Learn from all this stuff. Yeah. It really is the extra stuff. It's the grout between the tiles of your classes that really makes it useful.
Yeah, for sure. And just like you were saying about the network, running like that 3D printing club, it brought all these amazing people into my life that I'm still friends with to this day.
Yep. Yeah. It's great. So like, not necessarily saying blow off your classes. I mean, I blew off a lot of my classes, but you know, the thing that I valued is this stuff. It sounds like you did too. The classes were whatever, but like the point of school was more about all the extra being connected with other people doing a similar thing and kind of like finding what your vibe is and like what you want to be working on.
And like another great reason to get the degree is in the event you don't have a safety net you could rely on. I, for example, if things went south during an entrepreneurial endeavor, had a very loving mom that I could go live with. If I didn't have that, there'd be little to support me.
Yep.
So like a 4-year degree is it's an airbag. It
is an airbag. Yes. Yeah. You're trading out that security for loans, you know, but yeah, it is. If it's something you can land, and this is a whole thing we haven't talked about of like, it's expensive to get a degree. It's money, and you can find places that are cheaper, but like it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So like doing this means that you're trying to recoup your cost in some way with what you do, ideally, you know, with the money that you put into getting the degree. But, you know, having the degree is still a huge safety net that no one can ever take away from you. And it's a good long play of having the degree and paying off those loans over time. But, you know, it depends. So there are a lot of reasons to still get a degree, I think. Like, I'm glad that I have one. It's been useful to me. And for working at the startups that I did and at the normal companies that I did, it was useful there. And it's been really useful for Opula stuff too. But what I have found to be really, really useful is personal projects and learning from those. And that's really where I think I've gotten most, I'd say maybe 40% of what I've learned, maybe 50, 60% of what I've learned has come from working on my own personal projects.
I'd say most of what I've learned came from that.
Really? Well, my other like 50% is jobs.
Yeah.
Which is our next section. And I'm thinking it's like almost zero from school. 50% personal projects, a lot of which I did in college. And that's why college is useful. And then kind of the other half is like on the job experience.
Oh, sure.
That's my spread.
I get that. And I could relate.
So when to do personal projects, first of all, ideally you just do them because they're fun. You know, like that's the best reason to do personal projects is because you're stoked about this stuff. But if you're thinking about it in terms of like where you want to go and what you want to accomplish, if you want to work at startups, they are so unbelievably important. it is so important for especially early stage startup having projects. Like the only reason I worked at Deep Local, which is my first job out of college, the only reason I got that internship and they hired me on is because I had a prosthetic hand project I worked on, which was the grant thing that I got when I was back at school. And also a flamethrower that I had built and like happened to run into some people that worked at Deep Local. And that's where I met them. And I had a flamethrower. So like there is no world in which I worked at that company if I did not have those personal projects. And same with Formlabs. The only reason I worked at Formlabs was because of the flamethrower and like other projects that I was working on that I showed in my interview process. Like that was why I got those jobs. Full stop. I have no doubt.
And personal projects give you the ability to pursue skills and interests that an employer or university is not going to offer to you.
Yeah.
Like I was saying earlier, like if you wanted to learn CAD at UConn, you had to do it on your own time.
On your own time. Yep. Mm-hmm.
I got a lot of enjoyment out of building weird machines and contraptions like Nerf guns and documenting them on my now defunct portfolio site.
Yeah.
And that became like the biggest reason Formlabs hired me. I had this little robotic Etch-a-Sketch called SketchyBot.
Mm-hmm.
I had a full build log and bill of materials, and the CAD was downloadable, and they're very impressed with it. I also documented the creation of a Linux CNC 4-axis controller and the process of retrofitting like an X-Carve CNC machine with it.
Yep.
So it could run in like real time.
Mm-hmm. And we together in college, we built a full body 3D scanner. We had one of these projects was one we did together.
Yeah.
And that also was, I definitely use that in all of my interviews as a reference point, you know, having on my personal portfolio website too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's really good to have them so much. And like also speaking as people who hire people for a startup, it is something we aggressively look for. It's like someone having a personal project and like something that they're enthusiastic about is huge. It's so important.
I won't go as far as to say it's required to have a portfolio for like an engineering job here, but it makes you stand out really strongly.
Hugely. Yeah. I mean, like we often say like the one thing that can't really teach is passion. It's like enthusiasm, and like if you clearly have that and you show that in like what you do and you have a portfolio like that, oh, what a dream. And like even thinking about hiring people at Formlabs, when I'd be interviewing people, that was such an important thing that we would look at too. Like, yeah, do you have a portfolio? Do you do your own stuff? Are you excited about this stuff? Are you passionate about it? That was such a driving point. So that's huge. I think that's really important for most startups. That's really helpful.
Yeah. Can you do the thing?
Can you do the thing? Yeah. Have you proven you can do the thing and do the thing well?
And a 4-year degree shows you know about the thing, but like a personal project shows you can do it.
Yeah, which is actually the thing you care about.
Yeah.
It's cool if you have the piece of paper, but when the rubber meets the road, you doing it?
Yeah.
Like that's what matters.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Another great reason for personal project-based learning and like career advancement is just that if you want to start your own thing. It's experience doing projects and learning about something without needing a boss to greenlight it is incredible. You just get to do it.
Yeah. It's your project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, I think the practice of being 100% accountable to yourself and only yourself for the results of your work is like, that's the real hard mode.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I think a lot of this too is like having your own personal project is a really good way to learn because it is a driving force behind telling you what you need to learn next. Like if I'm like, I want to learn to code and then I go to like Codecademy and I like take their JavaScript course, I'm not going to really learn JavaScript. Like I am such a proponent of the idea of like the best way you learn is through doing a project because when you're doing a project, you're like, oh, well now I need to figure out how to bloody-blop. And you have no idea how to bloody-blop. You Google it and you figure out how to make it happen because there is a beautiful, shiny, juicy, delicious carrot at the end of a stick right in front of you, which is the project being done. And the only way you get there is by learning those 3 things. And you do enough projects where you learn 3 things per project, suddenly you've learned a lot of things, like it is the best way to learn that stuff. So yeah, I think, even just building your pedigree of skills to do your own thing, which you need a lot of.
Yeah.
Projects are great for that.
I feel like a college class will teach you about a bunch of concepts that orbit a topic.
Yeah.
Whereas like a project you're doing requires you to learn things with like a dependency tree.
Yes.
Like it brings you to the next thing.
Right.
It pulls you deeper into knowledge.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like linear.
Okay. Sure. So Mitchell just stopped us here and had a point about this of like
brain blast.
Yes, like it's all well and good to be like, oh, we'll just do a project. But if you want to do a project and you kind of like don't know where to start or even what question to ask, like my example was like, how to turn website blue. You're trying to make your own website, like how to put website on internet. You don't know to search, hosting services, how to port forward from a local, like all of these nitty gritty questions to actually do the thing. If you don't even know yet what question to ask, how do you get there? And like, that's a great point. Sometimes it's like, you don't know. You don't even know the lay of the land. Like it might even come down to like, go to the Wikipedia page for server and be like, okay, or like read a blog post about it of like something that gives you a good wide lay of the land so you even understand what to start Googling to understand what it is, I heard like I definitely experienced
and
that.
You know what? Here's the real hook. That's why I love open source.
Wow. You brought it back, Luce. You brought it back.
Yeah.
Okay. How so?
If I want to do a project, there's a decent chance there's a Hackaday write-up on doing something similar adjacent, or there's a GitHub code base on achieving something adjacent to what I'd wanted, or probably even a Stack Overflow post about the problem I'm having. And because it's all open and out there, I can build off the collective knowledge of the internet and go from there.
Yep.
Rare is it that I have to learn something from scratch and be the first one to figure out something in human history.
Right. Yep. And, ideally it is a college class that does give you this lay of the land. It reminds me of that joke about like vibe coders. They're like, hey, check out this cool website I just made with AI. And they're like, okay, send it to me. And they send you a localhost link. And it's like, oh, well, that's only on your machine. Like I can't see it. But that is a misunderstanding about how a higher level thing works. And it's like, you've lost the forest through the trees at this point. How do you get the forest? And that is a difficult part with projects. If you don't have someone being like, oh, well, maybe friends, mentors, or like Googling. Sometimes Googling will help of like, how do I get website available to other people? It's like, well, you need to host it. Okay, how do I do that? And sometimes that will get you there, but it's harder. I think it's harder to do it.
Early on, I definitely, as a kid, at least, I would follow a lot of Instructables and deviate from them.
Yeah.
Like being handheld by a DIY learning kit.
Yep.
It gave me the confidence to figure things out and debug it and like venture into like unknowns a little bit more confidently.
Sure.
But it is a skill, just like learning how to read a textbook.
Yeah. Figuring out what questions to ask is its own skill, which is weird. Another great reason why working on your own projects can really help you with starting your own thing is it's a great development bed for figuring out what you want to start it around, and like, that's very much what I did with YouTube is like, I made a lot of different videos about different things. And then literally my personal project turned into the thing that you know what I mean? Like it kind of took off on its own way. So it's also good to like, you're literally kind of doing the thing that you inevitably want to do one day full time. Yeah. So like, might as well get the reps in now.
Yeah. And like, just another reason that is near and dear to me is if you're the type of person who learns by doing, that's a great reason for personal project.
Yeah. Yep.
Like rare is it that a lecture in college taught me much of anything.
Yeah. Really not at all.
And I had real trouble retaining like auditory like lessons.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
That's just how I learn.
Sure.
I'd much rather try something and fail.
Yep.
And play around with it than be told about a thing.
Right. Yep.
And like, sometimes that means I need to touch a hot stove to learn.
Yep. You got to make the mistake yourself first sometimes.
Yeah. And like college would rarely teach you how to build something. UConn Mechie can go 4 years of classes without being told what an Allen wrench is.
Yep.
Sometimes you just need to learn by doing.
Yep. Yeah, totally.
Which is a great segue into like, learning on the job.
Yes. This is like the super hyper aggressive speedrun version of personal projects is for jobs is what it feels like.
It's joining on someone else's commercialized personal project.
Yeah. And there is a serious external pressure to do it. It's not like, oh, it's a lazy Saturday afternoon, I'll work on my XYZ. It's like, no, this is what you do all day, but working on the job is such a good way to learn stuff. Getting into the industry roughly that you want to work in and working in that for a while is such a cheat code to just soaking up a ton of stuff. It is such a good way. I was listening to a great podcast the other day. I'll put a link to the description. I forget the name of it, but it was a great episode about launching like some really nice hardware products. And they were talking about how like you should really work in the industry for 3 to 5 years before starting your own thing. Because there's so much stuff that you kind of only learn by bumping shoulders with the industry that you should probably spend a little time in it first before you go out and do it. Because otherwise, like so many vendor connections are word of mouth and, like a reference or a connection with a friend or whatever, like so much of it is that way. you want to make those connections first. And this isn't even about learning. This is just, well, I mean, it is also about learning, but also connections. There's a lot that you get from it. Yeah, a job is such a good way to learn this.
Opula would be so scuffed if we did this straight out of school.
Yeah, I actually think about that all the time. Is like, what does Opula look like sans Deep Local Farm Labs Mastercam?
Yeah.
Like how does our previous job history change this? And like, it's aggressive. It is aggressive. This company does not exist.
Probably not.
Yeah, like it's so important that, you know, time was spent. But yeah.
Yeah, I learned a ton across all of my different jobs before joining up at Opula. Like my first job during school was Mastercam, a CNC software company, where my job was to produce technical content, mostly videos about using the software.
Mm-hmm.
It taught me about all the different aspects of an organization required to run a software company.
Mm-hmm.
It showed me what the creative services team was like, the applications engineering team was like, the software development team, and like all the other ancillary teams to support selling this CNC software.
Yeah.
It was fascinating. Something I wouldn't have thought about before was the importance of localization in regional markets and like knowing how to market to Germany versus Mexico and like how different that could be.
Yeah.
Or just interfacing with a manager and being a part of a hierarchy.
Mm-hmm.
I would have been totally off base at future jobs had I not had that experience, because they were really kind there. And like everyone there had been there like 20 years and had multiple jobs. And it was my first job.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Everyone there was a lifer.
I learned a lot at that software company. It's been really helpful for like project management stuff here at Opula. And it set me up really great for being at Formlabs, which was a much more chaotic place than a well-structured family business that makes software.
Right.
It makes the same software each year.
Yeah. With tweaks.
Yeah. When I was at Formlabs, I ultimately left as a manufacturing engineer, and I was responsible for line management, jig and fixture development, incremental product upgrades, supplier relations, and dealing with contract manufacturers, be it remotely or boots on the ground in Asia. It was a lot. A lot of that I was doing for the first time.
Yeah.
I felt like I was emulating my bosses. I felt like I was not winging it, but just
learning as you go.
Learning as I go.
Yeah.
It was really important to do that. And like, I was confident at it. It was cool.
Yeah. Yeah. You just so thrived there. Like it was cool. It was cool seeing you kick ass there. Like it was awesome.
Yeah. I kind of no lifed it.
Yeah.
And that also was its own lessons.
Yep.
But it was really rewarding, and I cherish every second spent there.
Yep. Formlabs is great. Yeah. I out of school I worked at Deep Local, which is technically an advertising agency, but they didn't make like billboards or TV ads. We built robots. So one of the best token examples is we made this little wooden box with a red button on the top. It was very nondescript. You press the button and it silences your phone, dims your lights, turns on your TV, opens Netflix, and orders a pizza to your house. And like, it was the Netflix and chill button. And like, we didn't sell this thing, but we did a lot of social media stuff about it. It got like 2.8 billion social media impressions for Netflix. And like, that was advertising for Netflix. So half of my time I was a creative technologist, and I would like pitch ideas to clients and like come up with ideas for things to do and how we would go about doing that. So being part of like this is actually feasible, and then building it, and then usually going on site with the robot and like demoing it or whatever. So I think in my first 6 months at Deep Local, in terms of distance traveled, I went around the world 3.5 times. I got there and they're like, "Do you have your passport?" I'm like, "No." And they're like, "Cool, we're gonna rush order you one. You're going to the Netherlands in 6 days." And I was overseas.
And how many vaccines did they make you get?
Well, when I went, I mean, over the course of all the trips that I took, I got like something over like $2,300 worth of vaccines because of all the different places I go and all the restrictions of all the different places I went. They packed me full. It was wild. Some of them they had to like fly in, and they were in like a frozen cooler, and they were special. Like it was a whole thing.
This man's immune.
Yeah. And along with all the tetanus shots I got in college, because I kept forgetting if I got the booster. So every time I accidentally nicked myself, they give me another booster. My joke is that if I had a superpower, it would be it's impossible for me to get tetanus.
Oh my God.
You could stab me with a rusty nail and I would die from blood loss, but not from tetanus.
And I remember something you said to me early on in your time at Deep Local, like, how much did you have to spend in your first week?
Oh yeah, it was actually my second day. So my first day, I get in, I'm like, all right, new job. And they're like, "Steven, we need you on this thing." And I'm like, okay. And I got pulled into this project, and then they were like, we need to drive these crazy panels of LEDs, and we need to order it like by the end of day tomorrow. Figure out what we need to buy. And I was like, okay. And I like took my best crack at it. And I go to my boss and I'm like, okay, if I understand the requirements right, this is what we need. Like, yeah, it sounds right. I'm like, okay, $120,000. And he's like, okay. I'm like, do I buy it? And he goes, is it right? And I'm like, I think so. And he goes, that's not good enough. And I said, okay, I'll come back in like 30 minutes. And I like reassessed everything. And I came back and he was like, is it right? I'm like, yes. He's like, buy it. It was my second day of work. 120,000. It was 135,000, I think. It was $135,000. And it was right. But oh boy, it was spooky. So that, there were times, I mean, I worked at my peak 114 hours in a week. I was constantly on the road. I never worked under like 80 or 90 hours a week. A third to a half the time I was traveling. It was a lot.
Yeah. And that pressure of that purchase on your second day is not something you can gain from like college or a personal project so easily.
Mm-hmm. So I learned a lot in rapid prototyping. Like they'd be like, Steven, you need to build this thing. It needs to be in LA in 9 days. Build it. And I would just stay up all night for like days at a time. And I'd build this thing. I got really good at building stuff fast, which was great. And I really loved that skill. But it also was exceptional for stress management. Like I would bring things to Google I/O and present them to the CEO of Google. And they're like, they were built in a week and like they didn't work super well. And I had to like deal with the stress of like this thing might fail. And like sometimes it wouldn't. I'd have to try and make it still be good. You know what I mean? Like it was really stressful. So it really did a great job for calibrating me for stress. Like not a lot stresses me out now. It's pretty hard to get back to that level. And it also taught me how to deal with stress. I mean, in a pretty unhealthy, aggressive way. But that was my choice. I chose to take on all this stuff. It could have been lesser if I wanted to. Deep Local is a very cool company, and I chose this life. I think that's very important to say. Excuse the phrase, I was a pig in shit. I loved it. It was so much fun, and I learned a ton. This company wouldn't exist if not for my time at Deep Local, full stop. Like it wouldn't be a thing. Yeah, it was great. And then Formlabs too. For Formlabs, it was more about customer support. Like I was on the sustaining engineering. My line is like Deep Local is building one thing quickly and Formlabs was building a lot of things well.
Yeah, we were foils to each other at Formlabs.
We were, yeah. You were introducing the problems and I was fixing them.
Yeah. I was the factory and you were dealing with the factory output problems.
Exactly. And working together on that and figuring that out was great. You know, and like we actually have similar roles here at Opulo now, which is kind of interesting. Not fully, but partially, you know, like the way information flows more so. So super interesting. But yeah, learning about how customer support stuff operates, like what's the whole operation of like, how does the sales team work? How does the support team work? All of that stuff, long-term support for things and what that looks like was all from Formlabs. So yeah, as I talk, it's like, oh no, it's way more than 50% from old jobs. Like jobs really, that was like maybe 70% is really the skill set.
It's not also the work itself, but the mentors you get access to from jobs.
Yep.
Like if I'm ever unsure of what to do, I'm like, what would one of my last bosses at Formlabs do here?
Sean.
Yeah. Sean. The GOAT.
Yeah. The GOAT. The coolest dude. Yeah.
Sean Munnis himself.
Sean Munnis himself. There is, I totally agree. Like there are so many people I think back to of like, how would so-and-so do this? Or I'd call them and be like, hey, what do we do? And they have a take. Like it's pretty hard to beat 3 to 5 years in the industry. It's pretty hard to beat that.
Yeah. I think Formlabs is our Y Combinator experience.
Yeah. It has some of that energy. Like, but it was on someone else's dime. You know, we got to learn and see how other people did it. And Formlabs was a big company, but they also still operated like a startup. So we got to kind of see like, oh, they could put more structure in place here. They chose not to, for good or for bad. You know, they made it this size, you know, and this is how they're operating. So we can kind of see what it would look like to get to that size, but they're still scrappy. So we were also there at a good time, I think.
Yeah. The political game of it too is fun to learn and interface with. I'm not going to poo poo it, but like understanding how to be influential there and like get the right thing to happen was also like really paramount to like my career so far.
Yeah. It's interesting. All right. So in summary, if you want to work a stable engineering job, kind of regardless of where, big, huge company, small startup, mid-sized startup, whatever, you probably get a degree.
My caveat here is you might not need one, but it's going to be a very tedious and risky uphill battle to advocate for yourself and build your skills out along the way.
Yeah. And also, we haven't really explicitly said this whole time, but we're talking about engineering jobs here.
Yeah.
Pretty specifically. Like, I don't know what it means to get a copywriting job and what they look for. I don't know what it means to, in literally every other industry. This is just our limited scope of like engineering jobs.
Yeah.
But yeah, you did a great job of that. I think about what was the project you did for Farm Labs? Your like startup, the project in your interview of like the drill bit sorter thing. That was cool.
The tech challenge. Yeah. Farm Labs would send all applicants a tech challenge, and I just built it IRL.
Yeah.
They were expecting me to spend an hour on a write up of how to approach like sorting drill bits by diameter.
And you built it.
I just built it.
Yeah. Like you can brute force your way to success.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That was awesome. I remember you sending me pictures of like, dude, I'm cooking. I'm building the thing. I'm getting this job.
It might sound cocky, but I think if luck is a dice roll, you can get more rolls by working harder.
Yes. I think to a degree. Sometimes no matter how much harder you work, I think you're limited to a certain number of dice rolls depending on your situation. Like sometimes you only get one, no matter how hard you work.
Yeah.
But, it's a mix of all those things, right? Like you have to get extremely lucky. Well, especially in regards to starting your own thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, luck, privilege, hard work. All things that go into it for sure.
That's true.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then if you want to start your own thing, I'd still say probably get the degree, but it's not really for learning. It's for like an insurance policy, connections, and looking good for the few jobs you work to learn in the field before then starting your own thing. I still think it's a good move.
There's a fun caveat just to be the devil's
advocate.
Yeah.
Oh, please do. Please do.
Yeah. So this is a different industry. I have a friend that went to music school, and he said, and this is just a guy that went on to be like a punk rock star.
Okay.
He said the point of music school is to drop out.
That's funny.
He was like, sorry, anyone that went to music school.
Mitchell's laughing because he did.
Yeah. He was like, only the chumps graduate because they didn't find something better to do before the end of 4 years.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. So
that's so funny.
Yeah. So it's like, if you find your network and you find your sound and you find people that will listen to you, go.
Yeah.
Get out there. You can always go back.
All right. Yeah, that's true. That's funny.
Yeah.
That's okay. Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. Like if school feels like it's really holding you back, it's almost the cart before the horse at that point. It's like you're doing school to get to that thing. If that thing comes a knocking, go. That's it. That's what you want at the end of the day anyway. Go do it, Yeah.
Sometimes it'll look like a no-brainer.
Yes. Yeah. Also, if you want to start your own thing, do your own projects. Hopefully you're probably already doing this, because if you want to do your own thing, it's pretty likely you're already working on your own projects, because that's how your brain's wired. You want to go off and do your own stuff. You're already probably working on this, but doing it and documenting it and sharing it and putting a portfolio together, huge for that. And you're going to learn a ton in the process of doing it. And also work in the industry for 3 to 5 years.
It can't be understated how important that'll be.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we would be floundering if not having failed and gone to do something else. If we had not had a little bit of time, We
need time to cook.
Yeah. You need to see kind of how things work a little bit. Like, yeah, I think it's pretty important. But yeah, that's kind of the spread. There's a lot of ways to learn stuff, and it depends a lot on who you are, how you learn. I'm a very visual learner. I need like graphics and visuals to process things well. And like going through school, you have to learn things a different way, because they're not always going to be visual. You kind of have to brute force your way through and learn how that works. And it's going to depend on who you are and how you operate and what you want to do. But, this is kind of, I think, how we look at it and what has worked well for us.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Everyone makes their own journey of it.
Yep. That's true.
All right, folks, that's it for this one. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to leave a review wherever you get your podcast. It helps us out a ton. You can learn more about Opulo at opulo.io, as well as YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky. You can email us at podcast@opulo.io with questions or comments on the episode. Keep up to date with the podcast and Opulo. Sign up for our newsletter, where we write blog posts and conduct customer interviews with other folks building open hardware. That's it. We'll see you in the next one.
Thanks, everyone.
See ya. Hold it in, Steven. Hold it in.
Don't take the bait.
Don't take